What about this thing here, DD? Not that one, but this one right here. Reese Street.
Can we go back to the back?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you.
These are just paper.
Yeah, it's just a notification, huh?
Thank you.
Yes. I need those dates again. 19th, 20th. Okay. I'll let you know in the morning.
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'll still be in school. That's in West Monroe. It's in West Monroe. Yeah, I got some in the mail, man. I think it'll be in West Monroe. But I got some in the mail.
I'll get with you in the morning. Was it 18 and 19th of February? When in February.
And my sheets. Good evening. Legal notice was given of this regular meeting of the mayor and board of alderpersons for the city of Bastrop this Thursday, January 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the courtroom at City Hall. Ms. Goldman, can you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. You want to do the pledge first?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We're going to have a pledge of allegiance, a moment of silence first, a pledge of allegiance, and a prayer. And we have Reverend Evans. Are you in the building?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Reverend Evans is going to be our guest minister who's going to come and lead us in prayer. So if we can all stand. Reverend Evans.
We'll bow our heads for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come right now just telling you thank you. We want to ask you, God, to let this meeting go well and good as it's supposed to, God. We're asking you, God, to let everybody understand what everybody is saying, God, that the meeting can go as well as it's supposed to go. In Jesus Christ's name we do pray. Amen. Thank God.
Salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2, roll call, Ms. Goldman, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Prater?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Present.
Mr. Locke?
Here.
All present, Mayor.
So we have a quorum. This meeting is now in session. Do we have any announcements? Any public announcements? I'd like to ask Mr. Shaw to give us an update. We have, I get tagged so many times on Facebook about streets and potholes, and so many people feel that streets that are not inside the city limits are inside the city limits. So we get dinged and people start calling names of streets. I won't name any. I fell into a great big pothole over on such and such, and we'd say, that's not in the city. Mr. Green's well aware of that. They tag him a lot too. But I got tagged on Cherry Ridge Road, and I'd answered that the State Department would take care of that, because, Mr. Shaw, would you elaborate on that just a little bit about the railroad track at Cherry Ridge?
Be glad to. If you've been on down Cherry Ridge on your way to 425, you will go across the railroad track, A&M Railroad, and that crossing is really, really bad. The good news is the ODT and the A&M Railroad is going to repair that crossing. It will be done the first weekend of February. So a long time coming, a lot of people interested in it. And so we're glad we finally got it. Materials are on site, just a matter of getting it done now. They have the contractor in place, and that'll be done February 1, 2, and 3.
And I want to thank Mr. Shaw for staying close to that situation. Thank you, sir, for interfacing. It's the railroad's responsibility and the State Department of Highway, Department of Transportation and Development. And it's inside the city limits of Bastrop, the street is, but it's not one of our streets. But Mr. Shaw did a great job of talking and keeping up with that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other announcements? Item 4, public comments as they relate to items on the agenda. Would you state your name, please? And your address.
Rose Thompson, 120 Parkhurst Avenue, Bastrop, Louisiana.
Which items are you addressing on the agenda? Ms.
People United.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
That okay?
We're glad you're here.
Okay,
And you're looking great.
whatever. But anyway, I come today this evening, council members, to support in support of People United, because I went to the one on Tisdale, and my good friend stayed next door to that facilities, Miss Yeardell, and she said she have never had a problem, not the one that she have had a problem with. And I think the facilities is good because of how well they are behaved and how the people that are there to watch over them is doing a great job. And that's in my community over there on Reese Street. And I think it will be good because gambling houses sometimes create big problems. I know because my uncle was killed doing gambling. And I think by having that facility there will help jobs to come there for people that's here. And I'm just asking you all to support and hopefully to give People United a chance to build over in that community, because I've seen great things to come from that organization with the people that's there.
Yes, ma'am. So you agree with the state's position that they want children to live in neighborhoods where there are houses and everything?
Yes.
And I think that's the intent of the legislation. And Mr. Prater has experience. He's an experienced counsel, and I believe that he, that's the state intent, is that the children that's in these in these situations be integrated. So I really, really appreciate you.
I really think it's
comment.
something that's good for our community, creating some jobs. And they're gonna have people that's gonna be there that is going to make sure that everything is going in the right direction. And I hope that the council members will look at that, and hopefully that we can get that taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thompson. Okay. Any other comments?
I'm gonna piggyback on what she said there. I was in Terrell, Texas. I don't know if anybody ever been in Terrell, Texas, the mental health hospital out in Terrell, Texas. They got about 1,000 patients out there. Mr. Green, did you get to go by there the other week?
I did.
Okay. Terrell State Hospital is sitting in the middle of a neighborhood. In the middle of a neighborhood.
Mr. Prater, we'll get a chance to discuss that.
All right. Well, I want
Okay.
you to know.
You will have the opportunity when we get to it on the agenda.
I want you to know I'm full. I may be forgot about it.
You're not full of anything but joy. Okay, but let's go on. Any other comments from anyone in the audience? Item 5, approve previous minutes of the regular meeting December 13th, 2018, and the special meeting December 20th, 2018. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of these two meetings.
Second?
Second that motion?
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Shaw, second by Mayor Pro Tem Councilman Moore, that we approve these minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. Item 6, Finance Committee Report, Resolution 19-1815, Bills and Claims for the month of December 2018. Committee Chair Locke.
Mayor, I move for the adoption of Resolution 19-1815, bills and claims for the month of December 2018.
It's been moved by Councilman Locke, Chair of the Finance Committee.
Second.
Second by Councilman Shaw, that we approve this resolution, that we adopt this resolution, rather. In the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Appointment of member of the Bastrop Zoning Board of Adjustments, and I'm recommending Ms. Monica Thrower. Ms. Thrower, are you here today? Is Ms. Thrower in the building? Ms. Thrower has indicated her willingness to serve on the Bastrop Zoning Board of Adjustments. Ms., would you explain what the board is, Ms. Ashley? I mean, just for the public?
Okay. I'm on the zoning board of adjustment.
Can you go to the microphone? We'd like for the public to be aware of the,
Our zoning board of adjustment would be level 2 of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Whenever an applicant comes into my office, the zoning office, I can give them an automatic approval, which is approval by right based off whatever is mapped within the developmental code. If indeed it is not an approval by right, you would have to immediately go and be heard, special permit usage, before our zoning and planning commission. In that event that they decide that they have not voted to pass whatever the application is, at that point you do get the opportunity to be heard by our Board of Adjustment. So that would be the level 2 portion of this, and also can be seen as an appeals board. So similar to an item that we have on the agenda today, that was something that was also not voted to be overturned by our Planning and Zoning Commission, thus is able to still be heard before the council.
okay, thank you.
So is this
So-
the same board, or this is two different boards?
We have a zoning board,
Level 1.
and Ms. Debbie Rogers is one of our members on that board. And then we have an adjustment board that if the person seeking a variance or something that's not in the map, that's either blue, or yellow or red, or, whatever the commercial or multi-use or this, then that person can appeal to the
Zoning and Adjustment Board.
this
It's level
Board
two.
of Adjustments. It's like a district court and an appeals court, and you guys
Or
are
the Supreme Court.
the Supreme Court, more or less. So so I'm recommending Ms. Monica Thrower to fill a vacancy that was created when one of our board members left the board.
Right.
So this would fill the board.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we appoint Ms. Monica Thrower to that position on the Board of Adjustments.
I second it.
It's been moved by Councilman Shaw, second by Councilman Locke, that we approve the nomination of Ms. Monica Thrower. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So noted. And we appreciate that. Is Mr. Rocky here tonight? Okay, he's not here. Now, I won't try to pronounce Mr. Rocky's name, okay? But I'll spell it. Mr. R-A-K-T-I-M, Rocktim, R-B-A-R-A-U-A-H. For fear of mispronunciation, I'll just leave that in the record. Has requested annexation of 3437 New Monroe Road. And this is just for, help me, Miss
Mr. Pierre may have to help you with this.
well, I'll just take it. Mr. Pierre, I got it to Mr. Pierre late, and that's my fault. And we have, let's take the Walmart. What I shared with the council is a sheet, and these are the steps that when Mayor Hawkins was here, these are the steps that we went through to annex the Walmart store. That property out there on, what's the road that goes down by Walmart?
Highway 2, it's,
I'm not talking about Highway 2, not Madison, but the road, Peach Orchard Road, right? That was not in the city limits of Bastrop.
Right.
And it was beneficial to the city of Bastrop. Had that property not been annexed into the city of Bastrop, all of the sales taxes that Walmart collects would not have gone, that city part will not have gone here. So I'm going to recommend to the council, this gentleman has, he already operates the California stop, and which is on the corner of Camel, and does a great job, keeps a great store, great rapport with customers, and provides a great service to the city of Bastrop, has competitive gas prices. Well, he has purchased the property that is outside the city limits in the last curve down where you cross the bayou, Point Pleasant, I believe it's called. That first service station, or the last one when you're going from Bastrop to Sterlington, on the right, in the curve, was purchased by him. It is outside the city limits. The city limits is up closer to Christmas Realty. And what we're asking, what he has requested, is that we extend the city limits just as we did for the Walmart store. You don't take in any property except going down the highway, 165. So we'll extend the city limits out 165 and then include that property only. So no residences will be affected. No other property owners will be affected except this one property owner. So he wants to do that, and in my opinion, we need the revenue, and it would be nice to say that that's in the city. We'll pick up all of the city's portion of the sales tax revenue. Right now, we're missing it. We've always missed it because it's been out of town. We'll also pick up a pretty nice property tax check, Ms. Goldman. You appreciate those, don't you? Yes, okay. And you also appreciate those sales tax checks too, don't you? Yes. It helps us run the city and provide services. So there is, I'll just read, this is an index guide from Walmart Superstore 0098, which is the one out east of Bastrop. No, the one in Bastrop on the east side of town. We pulled the binder. Tab A was the City of Bastrop Charter. So this is a process, and we're just introducing the process tonight, because we have to introduce it and offer a chance for the public to respond and for the input. Tab B was a petition for annexation along with signatures. Tab C was a certification by the assessor and the Register of Voters Office. What you have to do is provide an impact of what does this do to the voters in this area? Are you taking in people who don't want to be in the city? So we have to account and show that we're not doing anything adverse by doing this. Tab D was public notice of the annexation request, and we're going to follow these procedures as guided by our counsel, Mr. Pierre. Thank you. Notarized proof of the agenda of the July 2005 meeting. Special council meeting was called. Stamped copy of the ordinance, which was 05-4064. Proof of publication of the ordinance, 05-4064 also. And tab E was a notarized proof of the agenda for the August 8, 2005 meeting. Item 2 in that tab was minutes of the special meeting of the August 8, 2005, and the resolution 05-1174. That was a corporate endeavor agreement between Walmart and the city of Bastrop that covered quite a bit. There was sewer infrastructure, there was all types of infrastructure that needed to be put in place for that store, and the corporate endeavor agreement defined the responsibilities of the participating parties. We're not going to have, it's our plan not to include the sewer.
It's already on sewer.
Yes, ma'am, it's on sewer, but that sewer line was run down to Courtesy Chevrolet. And it was a private line that comes up and feeds into our line, and they pay a fee. But I'm recommending that the council, that we don't take responsibility for that sewer. It's like Mr. Perry, Steve Perry's addition down here, that he's done these 38 houses, I believe. We're not taking responsibility for the sewer system. We're not taking responsibility for the roads. The developer is responsible for that. So I'm not recommending that this council adopt a resolution to include any kind of responsibility for the sewer. Let that agreement stand as it is. And we just I recommend that we just take in the land and not have let them continue, the people on that line from the Courtesy Chevrolet, the old Chevrolet place, George Clark Chevrolet, I believe it was.
It was.
Up to that tractor place, the Cotton, was it?
The Cotton Enterprises?
That's not mine.
Oh, it's not?
No, sir, no. Even though it was called Henry Cotton Tractor, I say, correct that quick. I think it's Larry, I believe. But I think they're on that, and it pumps up to our sewer system. So I would not recommend that we take responsibility for that, leave it as is, but we'll consult counsel on that. And tab F was a corporate endeavor agreement between the city of Bastrop and Walmart, store 0098, and Exhibit A was the highway improvements, 165. The state agreed to do some stuff there, like traffic signals and turn lanes and things like that. Infrastructure improvements, project cost estimate. And then tab G was the resolution 05-1173, along with Mayor Clarence Hawkins, city clerk, and the city council signatures, and signatures of a true copy. And then tab H was miscellaneous. So I just want to give the public and us and the council an idea of the process. And we're going to try to speed this process along as rapidly as possible once we allow for the public to comment. And this is notice that I intend to push this item, request that that adoption of this item, because I can't see anything but benefit for the city of Bastrop. I've consulted Chief Campbell about it, and Chief, you give your nod to this?
With Mr. Barua's property,
Yes, sir.
I don't see wrong with it.
Okay, yes, sir. So we've consulted and talked about it, and so if the public want to comment, we welcome public comments. Ms. Goldman's office will take any any comments. Is that correct, Ms. Goldman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So this was not for action, this was just to introduce.
Introduce it.
No action required. Are there any questions?
For the record, if I bought that building right across from him, I have to go through this same process?
Yes, sir. The process is basically the same, public notice, and registered voters would have to look at who's impacted, and if there's no one impacted but you, generally, cities will go along with the request. Even the townhouse once wanted to be outside the city. The townhouse was Townhouse Club on Henry Street, and the city, they requested that they be outside because I think the laws for nightclubs are more favorable in the parish than they were the city. So I think their request was granted because it didn't affect anyone but them. So, yes, sir, Mr. Prater, if you wanted to buy something, or if someone in Maplewood wanted us to come over there because we do better street maintenance and annex them, we might consider that. So I just thought I'd throw that in. We are trying to grow. But yes, Mr. Prater, the process is more or less the same. Any other?
Are you gonna speed mine so long too?
Yes, sir, you just get yours and you pay taxes. We love the revenue. You pay your city taxes and sales taxes. We'd be glad to have you.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yes, sir. Okay. Any questions? No action? No action required. Next is, Mr. Goldman, can you think of anything we may have omitted in our discussion of this item?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 9, Resolution 19-1816, a resolution amending the resolution of 18-1814 of the City of Bastrop, Louisiana, the city, to allow the construction of multifamily living units as planned, as a planned development, as described in 16.2.12 of the zoning development code from the area of land located on Naff Street between Daisy and Roderick Street. Ms. Goldman.
Mayor, this was what we acted on in December. Ms. Barfield noticed that we referenced the wrong code. The one we did had something to do with industrial development rather than residential. So all we're doing is reference the correct part of the zoning. Nothing else is, we're just.
That's what we get for hiring lawyers.
That's right.
For code enforcement.
Thank the Lord.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Barfield, for saving us from having egg on our face later on, okay? Okay, thank you. And whoever recommended you, I want to thank them also, okay? Ms. Goldman, you have any other comments on that? This is just a correction, isn't it,
Just a correction. Yes,
to what we've already approved? Gentlemen, do we have a motion to adopt this correction?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
The motion been made by Mayor Pro Tem Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Locke, that we adopt this resolution. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. And thank you, Ms. Goldman. Thank you, Ms. Barfield. Item 10, discussion action, special use permit for the property located at 1104 Reese Street, People's United of Louisiana, Charter House 2. I'm going to ask Mr. Pierre and Ms. Barfield to lead that, but Mr. Prater, did you want to say something before that? I promised that we would come back to you.
No, I'll let them talk.
You let them talk? Okay. All right. Mr. Pierre, would you take the lead on this, please?
Yes, sir.
Can you pull your microphone closer?
I can, Mayor. At the last council meeting, there was a presentation, and I guess I was a little confused as to whether we were having a hearing or whether or not it was just a comment with respect to the same from the trainer from the Carter House. I think the gentleman is here. I think I saw him to my immediate rear. And there was a submission to the city council for purposes of a special use permit. And I'm assuming that was the functional equivalent of what was going on. For everyone's information, I think a zoning application was submitted in July of 2018. It went through the process, and I think there was a reference made earlier regarding the way our court is set up in hierarchies, district courts, appellate courts, and Supreme Court. So for lack of better words, the Planning and Zoning Commission would be our first level, as Ms. Barfield indicated before, would be our district court level. And the Zoning and Adjustment Board would have been the middle level, which if the permit was not granted at the first level, you can go to the Board of Adjustments, and that was also done. And apparently, the Board of Adjustments did not approve the opening of this establishment, and it came before this city council. At that particular time, the council asked me to look into it, and I have had the occasion to look into it. And the authority of the council is to say yea or nay to the special use permit. But with the understanding, if the council says yea to the special use permit allowing the Carter House youth for youth, I think this is number two. Number two, to open and operate. At that point in time, given the fact that that special use permit would have been awarded, then it would go back to planning and zoning so that they can determine what restrictions are as is set forth by the planning and zoning code. And I'll defer to Ms. Barfield for any further instruction with respect to the same.
Ms. Barfield?
Correct. Section 16.2.9 for special permit use of the developmental code reads, "The Planning Commission may attach any condition to the special use permit necessary to ensure compliance with the standards of this zoning developmental code. Such conditions may include but are not limited to additional screening or buffering or limitation in scale or intensity of hours of operations." In other words, the Planning and Zoning Commission, by our developmental code, is the board that has the authority to actually approve with the modifications. So in the event that you guys do approve it, it still would have to go back to the Zoning and Planning Commission only for purposes of adding any restrictions, which would make an approval with modifications.
Can you explain that again?
Restrictions would be anything from hours of operation, which we understand that a therapeutic home, a group home, does have their own state exactly, regulations. So any modifications could be hours of operation, which in this case, we know it does fall under residential, so it is expected to be open from 24/7. But as far as how they say there are certain staff employees, those do indeed have to stay until co-ed or not, meaning female, male, they can put an age restriction. All of those are certain criteria that can only be approved and given authority to by our Planning and Zoning Commission. That makes sense? Yeah. In addition to that, as far as the expiration of a special use permit shall expire after 1 year if a building permit application has not been filed. Once the use is constructed, the special use permit runs with the land and does not expire. So they do have that 1 year to make sure that our building permit across the hall from my office is made aware of what it's going to be used for, what the actual location is to be used for. Furthermore, as far as revocation of a special use permit, if any conditions of a special use permit or other requirements of the zoning development code are violated, the special use permit may be revoked by the Planning Commission. And that's just what falls under our revocation of our special use permit. So these are just extra criteria that must be followed, being that this is a special use permit procedure that we were going through before you guys.
And if I could add, I think when meeting with Ms. Barfield and going through some of the, how did it get here, so that everyone can be clear, I think there was some discussions at the last meeting here regarding whether or not this is a therapeutic home or whether or not it fell under that particular provision of the revised statute. But the way it is set up in our Planning and Zoning Commission code, it is listed as SRS 6. And SRS 6 is only by special use permit. That's the only way in which this particular development can come into place. And because it's specifically listed as all group living. So regarding whether or not it was zoned commercial, the area is zoned commercial or zoned residential, that does not matter. It still has to be done by way of special use because of the way our zoning and planning commission statute is designed. Now, this is something that you all need to think about. Once you all pull the trigger today, and let's assume that the votes are here to grant the special use permit, then you have to make a decision as to how you move forward. Now, in the law, we call it creating precedent. You know, so if you all decide to establish precedent by saying that's what you're gonna do, then the next time the similarly situated business comes and submits for a permit to open and operate, then a decision has to be made. Because if you say now that's the case, then they come back later, you'll have to deal with whether or not you're gonna have to do a zoning map change. And if that's gonna be the case, then you have to go through the whole ball of wax with respect to special hearings, bringing the community in and things of that nature. So once you decide how you're gonna do it today, that's fine, but understand that when someone comes in the future, you're gonna have to decide whether or not, you're gonna have to make a map change.
Okay, are we talking about just business in general or another therapeutic group home?
We just talking about all, the way it's classified under the code is all, and I'll put my glasses on, Mr. Prater, so I can read it to you exactly the way it says. All group living. So it doesn't specify any particular type, but all group living it falls under that particular provision where it has to be by special permit only. And if you're gonna go past that and establish your precedent, then you have to think about whether or not you're gonna wanna do a zoning map change. Because anytime this particular situation comes before planning and zoning or comes from Ms. Barfield, it has to be special use permit, and it has to work its way right back through the cycle and perhaps back to you all again to say that, to go back to where they started in the beginning. And I mean, if I'm explaining that wrong,
Correct, because in other words, as I may have tapped on in a previous special meeting with the council, I am starting to see a lot more businesses trying to open in particular zoning districts where, according to our developmental code, they're going to have to go through special permit usage. And we may have something in a similar situation that comes before you guys again, and it still is going to have to go through that 3-tier layer just to come back. And that's why we're bringing to your attention now, we may need to visit making a zoning map change
Yes.
altogether, because we were only here because the developmental code brought it to you.
And let me state something, Ms. Barfield. I was in the hearings back in, I think, 2011, maybe. I lose track of years, but people were expected to have great vision as to where Bastrop would be in a certain period of time. And that snapshot doesn't really exist of what we anticipated. And the development's a lot slower. I was riding with an assistant today. We had to make 2 trips to Monroe to take some surveys for sewer to Mr. Waxman, and then we had to make another trip. And we were looking at some of the places that is zoned for X, and there's Y there. And it's going to be a long time before any of these anticipated, it's like someone had a crystal ball and they said, okay, this is best for this strip of land, this is best for that strip of land. Some of these things will never happen in my lifetime, for sure. But in some of your lifetimes that are very young, some of these vision things that they had, that this area should be total commercial, this area should be mixed use, this area should be residential, we do need to revisit that, because there's a new reality here. When the mill was here, when everything was blowing and going, and we had great anticipation, we're trying to get I-69 to come down through here and all of this, people saw a certain,
Vision.
and it's not there. We've had a serious decline in a lot of areas that we are trying to bring the city back and redefine who we are. So I would be all for the work that it would take to rethink, and I think we need to start taking more input from the public on ideas. And here we are trying to decide on a therapeutic group home, and if you look that up under ldh.la.gov, where they define therapeutic group homes are licensed by the state, by the Louisiana Department of Health Standards section, and TGH is defined as a facility that provides community-based residential services in a home-like setting of no greater than 10 beds under the supervision and oversight of a psychiatrist or psychologist. TGHs provide a structural living environment 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. The purpose of the TGH is to provide a community-based service in a home-like environment to clients under the age of 21 who are determined to be to need these services. When we look at the totality, as attorneys are supposed to give us the scary, the scary stuff, to warn us of setting precedent and all of that. I can't vote tonight. Only you gentlemen are legislators and can do that. If I were to vote, I would first go and read my Bible, Matthew chapter 25, when the judgment comes and says, when saw we thee sick and in prison? When did we see you? Lord, we never saw you in need of anything. I would search my soul first, and then I would look at the state's intent for the need of these types of facilities within communities and neighborhoods, but not in my neighborhood, you don't. So I would question these from a moral standpoint. And I believe that our moral, our spiritual, for those of us who are not spiritually challenged, I think that we should question this and say, what type of town are we? What type of city is Bastrop, Louisiana? Right now, we're a retirement city. Healthcare is a great part of our job base. We have aged population, my age and older, and we need CNAs, we need LPNs, we need RNs, we need, and I'm proud to say that we're this kind of community, that we are, the majority of the checks that come in this community are probably retirement checks. I would like to see a study to say what percentage of our revenue comes from retirement checks. And with retirement community, I tried to get the council to participate in a certified retirement community when Kathleen Blanco was governor. She pushed the certified retirement community so that people would want to retire here and want to. Well, in the same vein, there are children who need services that are not criminal. These children are not criminals. They haven't been convicted of anything or charged with anything. And they're just children who need a place to stay. So I ask the council to really search their souls and not be just led by not my neighborhood. You don't, because this is going to create jobs, and they're not minimum wage jobs. They're, I believe, $10 an hour or so and above. And may I ask how many jobs this home will create, roughly?
Up to 30 overall, which would include direct care staff, administrators, and support staff.
Yes.
Eventually, it would bow to that.
Yes. So I just want you to really think, because this is a tough decision, I'm sure. I know how I would vote if I could vote, but I would walk away here without having to search my soul.
I said something.
Yes, Mr. Prater.
You know, we look at a lot of this stuff we might have to change. You look at industries coming to a town, first thing you're gonna look at is our school system. Who's gonna come here in the mess our school system is in? So we're gonna have to rethink this thing. We're gonna have to rethink it. Like I said about Terra, Texas, that's a mental health hospital for whole Texas. It's sitting dead in the middle of a neighborhood, and I actually walked them neighborhood. Them people say they had no problems in 20-some years that they have been there. So this is how it's going. It's not going this industry thing. It's going to healthcare and everything else. And they're getting away from LTI and all that. They're getting away from all of them things. The state is just not getting smart. Locking them up and throw away the key does not work. You wasting money. So it's best to try to work with these kids. These are somebody's kids. They are somebody's brothers, somebody's something. I have worked with them kids. We're going to have to change our mindset and think that this is the way it's going to be. If it's not working, let's change these rules. They outdated. Or we're going to get left. A lot of towns will go to the extreme to get them type jobs in there. Because we sitting and waiting on a big job, they not coming with our school system. We might as well face the facts. Any industry, Mr. Cotton, you know, first thing they gonna look at your school system.
Well, Mr. Prater, every time I meet with industry, I'm tired of hearing the 5 words, your schools, Henry, your schools.
Exactly.
And education is very important. We've got to do all we can to help our school system, to encourage people to stay in our school system. And these children, if we have 4 children, each child brings with them $10,000 in state money, roughly, and minimum foundation money. So 10 children is $100,000 that employs 2 teachers, that pays for 2 teachers. The ripple effect of creating jobs, not just those direct jobs at the facility, but also it creates jobs. Every time we lose 100 students in our school system, we lose $1 million. I have great fear that we're going to lose more students due to the recent action of the school board. I hear parents saying they want to bolt out of here. And we're doing all we can at the city level to support our school system. We're volunteering to do things that we're getting criticized to do, but we have to join together to save our city and to save our schools. And to, is there any other councilman who want to say anything?
Yeah,
about
Mayor,
this
I'd like to
question?
say-
Yes, sir.
We got the report on the Board of Adjustments to come on, to come on up to the council for an opinion or vote. Did the council, or did the zoning and commission group, which, Ms. Debbie, you're the chairman, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you see something that we hadn't seen, because I noticed that you had a unanimous vote to reject the placing this home in this area? Is there something?
Do you go by criteria, Ms. Debbie? You can come, if you don't mind, Ms. Rogers. Is there a criteria that you must follow, that your committee has the power to do? Can you explain that?
When someone comes before us, they present their case or their situation that they want us to approve a special use permit for. The thing that we looked at with this particular case was they had police reports. We asked them to bring the police reports, and they did. Between the months of, within a 7-month period.
This was the one on Tisdale, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Within the 7-month period, I think they had, please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Barfield, but I think they had 9 police calls. I understand now that those were police calls that they actually initiated themselves. They weren't from neighbors or anybody in the neighborhood. I think they were actually ones that they have initiated themselves. And as I understand now, there haven't been any calls since that period.
Thank you.
So that was what we based our decision on, which was the information that we had at the time.
Right.
And, if there's some information that we didn't have at the time, and so we didn't have the opportunity to look at that.
Thank you.
So those are the things that we base our decisions on, what we have at the time for that particular situation.
So you're saying that if you were to revisit it, you think it'd be a different vote from your committee, or from the commission?
I think, yes, I think it would. I think we'd have better information to look at now than what we had before.
Okay.
So I think the vote could be different.
Okay. One other quick question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Turnover. What about turnover of the staff? Any comments on that?
I think at the last meeting, there was some discussion from the trainer that they was gonna be doing some different training, but he's here.
Yeah.
I can't answer the question.
Good evening. Richard Winder, consultant trainer for the People United of Louisiana, 2089 Highway 80 East. Monroe, Louisiana, 71203. Sir, to answer your question, People United brought me on in May of 2018, and as a trainer and a consultant. And since that time, we had an opportunity to evolve our staff. Some had to go. Those that were good stayed. Those that were qualified to participate in what we have now at Tisdale are much more educated, much more prone to training. We have excellent leadership at the house now. The unfortunate process that happened prior to my coming on as a consultant training is that all, as you well know, the calls were all made internally by the staff who were somewhat nervous about dealing with kids, didn't understand the process of what a therapeutic group home was, and thought their only resort was to call Bastrop Police Department.
Right.
And once they got training by myself and other experts, they soon learned that they are the person in charge of this facility.
Exactly.
It's like us as parents. You know, we have 4 kids. My wife is in the audience. We have 4 kids, and we would have never resort to some of the things that those kids did to the staff, i.e. maybe cursed them, looked at them cross-eyed, or anything that would bother them, for them to call 911, which we thought was basically a wrong approach. But we understood that they needed training, and People United committed themselves to bringing in trainers. I have 50 years' experience in this business, sir. I was superintendent of a juvenile detention center that was in the middle of a neighborhood in New Orleans, 82 beds. I was the superintendent of a residential treatment center for 82 beds that was in the middle of 5420 Franklin Avenue in New Orleans. So in the group homes that I ran for the Paul Hospital in 1968 to 72 was roughly 4 blocks from where Drew Brees lives right now. So if he had a problem with the youth that we have served in New Orleans, he wouldn't have bought that house right off Audubon Boulevard. So again, sir, the turnover was president. We basically created the turnover by removing those individuals out and bringing in better qualified staff. And hope that answers your question, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. And I'll stay here if you have any other questions.
But no, like I said, in that environment is getting the right staff and getting them trained. Like I said, I left LTI in April, me and 2 or 3 other teachers. You had all kind of chaos. We was there for 12 years, we didn't have no problem. They brought a
And
lot
those
of young staff
students,
in there.
tell me about the nature of the students. Were they troubled? Because this is for non,
It's totally different.
it's totally different.
Different environment.
Yeah, because when you say group home, you know, you get these connotations.
No.
Okay.
Hey, Mayor, can I make the
Yes, sir.
motion to authorize this special permit?
You can make the motion, sir.
I
You're-
second that motion, Mayor.
It's been moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilman Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Councilman Moore, that, that this resolution be adopted. Is that the motion?
Yeah, this motion.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
If I may, Mayor, before you all go to vote, so that everyone can understand, once you do that,
It goes back to,
you have to send them back to planning and zoning.
Right.
For the restrictions, and I think that planning and zoning meet when?
On Monday, January 14th at 6 p.m.
Yeah, okay,
it goes back to,
Yeah, we're aware.
yeah,
okay.
okay.
I made the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Green, second by Mayor Pro Tem Moore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Goldman.
Mr. Moore, Mr. Prater,
Aye.
Mr. Shaw,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Locke,
No.
4 to 1.
Okay, thank you. The resolution is adopted.
Can I make a motion for,
Yeah.
number 11 as well?
11 and 12. Getting ahead of yourself.
Number 11 is adjournment. Number 11 and 12, Councilman, I'm glad you made the motion.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure we gave a full hearing, sir.
I understand, Mayor.
Yeah, the delay is preferable to error. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
We do.
From who?
Councilman Green.
Councilman Green's motion,
Mr. Prater.
second by Mr. Prater. Councilman Green moves for adjournment, second by Councilman Prater. All in favor? Means adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much.
Sir.
Thank you.